Each year in the United States, thousands of major crimes go unsolved. When the case has gone cold and police have nowhere to turn, they seek assistance from the public. This is a program dedicated to solving these cases. This is Crime Stoppers Case Files.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us for another Northeast Ohio edition of Crime Stoppers Case Files. I'm Bob Frantz. There are over 1,400 Crime Stoppers organizations operating around the world. These organizations empower citizens like you to become directly and anonymously involved in fighting crime in our communities. We're seeing the positive impact of this every day in Northeast Ohio. Crime Stoppers has become an important law enforcement tool, a proactive approach to removing dangerous criminals from the streets and making them safer for everyone. Each week on this television program, we'll share facts with you from unsolved cases, and you'll have the opportunity to submit information that may help investigators, possibly earning yourself a cash reward in the process without ever having to give your name. Let's get started. On April 14th, 2007, 37-year-old Gregory Fitz and three friends were returning from a night out together when Gregory's car was approached at a stop sign on West 38th Street in Cleveland by two males who attempted to rob him. The two suspects shot him as he attempted to escape the situation, and they took Gregory's life. Here's the story.
My son Greg was a really happy little boy. He was very personable. Everybody that met Greg loved him. Anywhere you went, somebody knew Greg.
Greg was the first in our family, the first grandchild, my first nephew, my only nephew, my godchild. That was very, very special to me because growing up, Greg had strong faith that endured throughout his life. We went to church together. He was a very, very special person. Everybody loved Greg.
Greg had a heart as big as the world. He loved everybody. He really loved life. He had this killer smile.
He was really good to his grandparents. He loved his grandparents, and when my dad was ill, he was there and helped take care of him. He was just a very compassionate person. He met this girl and he was sure that that was who he wanted to be with at 35 years old, and he decided that that's who he wanted to marry. And
he lived with my mom and me at the time of his death, he and his wife.
You know, he had some difficulties in that, but he was working through them. And toward the end, he was coming around real well. He was getting his life together.
You know, he had his problems, but he certainly we had many, many good times and many, many good memories. You know, he was such a family person, loved his family above all else.
Cleveland Police, how may I help you?
Yeah, this is Officer Brown with Metro Police. We just had a victim of a gunshot wound come in through our front door.
Victim's name is?
Last name is Fitz, first name Gregory.
Do you know where the shooting occurred?
No, he hasn't said very much. His wife came, dropped him off at the front door, only she left before any information was given.
Okay, we'll get somebody out there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
On April 14, 2007, the victim, Gregory Fitz, his wife, Marlena Fitz, and two friends were driving in the area of West 38th and Siam. It's about 4:30 in the morning. They stopped at the stop sign at 38th and Siam, and as they turned the corner, they were approached by two black males. One of the males came actually up to the car, placed his hand on the top of the car, and at this point pulled a gun out of his waistband, put it inside the window, and demanded their money. The victim responded by saying he only had $10, reached in his pocket, and proceeded to slide the money through the window. At the same time he was doing this, he threw the car in drive and attempted to take off. As he was doing this, a shot rang out. They got down the street and the victim realized he had been hit. At this point, they switched drivers, put the victim in the passenger side, and then drove him directly to Metro Hospital ER for treatment. As a result of the gunshot wound that he sustained, he died during surgery. These suspects were described by the victim's wife, Marlena, and the two witnesses as black males between the ages of 16 and 20. The shooter was described as being 6 foot, approximately 160 pounds, dark complexion, wearing a dark-colored hoodie. The second suspect was described as a black male, also lighter complexion, shorter, possibly 5'9" to 5'11", slim build. No clothing description was provided. The area where the shooting occurred is near Greenwood Park, known to be a drug area, drug sales, those kind of things that go on. Also, we've had numerous robberies that occurred in that area.
It was just a whirlwind all of a sudden, you know. This major person in our lives was suddenly just snatched away from us.
Couldn't believe it at first. He was gone. It was almost like a fantasy. I just couldn't believe that something like that would happen. Totally senseless.
Crime Stoppers is an international organization dedicated to bringing resolution to unsolved crimes. Members of the public work with police to make the world a safer place. Since 1975, thousands of Crime Stoppers organizations worldwide have helped make over 1 million arrests. Crime Stoppers acts as your advocate, keeping you anonymous and ensuring that your information gets to the right law enforcement agency.
On April 14, 2007, Gregory Fitz died as a result of a single gunshot wound in the area of West 38th and Siam by Greenwood Park.
I heard from my sister that my son had been shot and was taken to the hospital and he didn't make it, and that he was out with his wife and another couple, and that they were driving down the street and stopped at a stop sign, and somebody came up to the car and wanted money and put a gun in the car, and he tried to throw some money at him and pull away, and when he pulled away, he got shot.
Miss him every day. Think about him constantly. He was a son every father would want.
My mom says all the time when we talk about this, I wish I knew who did that, I'd go get him. My mom is 85 years old. It would give us some sense of closure, a way to know that this horrible thing that happened, that it's not going to happen to somebody else's family by this individual person, if we could take that person off the street.
One thing that I've done since all of this has happened is really try to get involved with Crime Stoppers. And we had raised some money to put towards it and trying to put posters out and see if anybody in the neighborhood even recognizes it or can remember that night. It'll never give me peace. But if this person is off the street, that's one gun off the street and maybe another family that it'll help.
I believe with all my heart that Greg is in heaven. And I think that he's at peace.
And I love him dearly. He's in my heart every day in my prayers. I just hope someday I'll see him again.
We're looking for anyone with any information relating to Gregory Fitz homicide to contact the homicide unit, ask for myself, Detective Carlin, or my partner, Detective Averka.
Please come forward. Get that person or persons off the street. Maybe save another family from having to go through this.
Let's bring the Fitz family some justice. Greg did not deserve to die, and whoever did this does not deserve to be walking our streets among us. Police are looking for 2 black males who would now be in their early to mid-20s. They're believed to frequent the near West Side, and we'll be right back with more when we return to Crime Stoppers Case Files.
In 1975, the first Crime Stoppers organization was formed by a detective who believed media attention helped solve cases. Since then, thousands of Crime Stoppers organizations have been formed around the globe with the same mission, encouraging members of the public to stand up against crime. Every 14 minutes, Crime Stoppers help solve a crime somewhere in the world. Get involved.
On March 18th, 2006, 25-year-old Jaylin Smith was parked near a car wash on Harvard Avenue when he was suddenly the target of a barrage of bullets. Here's his story.
Jaylin was a very fun person. Jaylin would call and and always had jokes and stories to tell, which he just brought a lot of laughter to us. Jaylin was a uncle, he was a nephew, he was a good friend, and most importantly, he was someone's son. Jaylin has a lot of brothers, sisters, a host of aunties, uncles, cousins. He has 4 children, and very close-knit family. He was a great basketball player, just kind of an all-around athlete. He would always say there was nothing he couldn't do as far as sports. He would come to our house, and we had a in-ground swimming pool, and he had dives that he always challenged people to do. He would do one and challenged everybody to do it, and of course, at the end of the day, he was the best one at doing it and things like that. So yeah, that was my favorite memory of him.
I'm here today because we need justice for our nephew. And sitting right here next to me is my niece. Her name is Jaylin Smith, and this is Jaylin's daughter. And she knows we told her what happened to her father. But like I said, we need to know what happened to him, and she would like to know what happened to her father. She remembered him when she was little. She remembered doing certain things with him. And he loved her very much, and she loves her father. So we all want justice as well as Jaylin.
911, DA, police, fire, or ambulance. Police. Where do you need the police? 146 in Harvard. Right at the corner of 146th and Harvard?
Because they're shooting Durham. We ran back, they shooting at a car. We almost got shot at. 146 in Harvard.
Okay, did you see anyone with a gun?
Yeah, it's a white car. It's 2 girls running. It's 2 cars. They're shooting out in the middle of the street.
All right, we'll check the area.
Thank you.
On the early morning of Saturday, March 18, 2006, Jaylin Smith and his partner were out bar hopping. Jaylin had met a female on Lee Road. They started having conversation. They asked her to accompany them to the car wash where Jaylin's friend had his car parked at. In the early mornings, approximately 2 a.m., at the location of 14302 Harvard Avenue, which is the parking lot of a car wash. Jaylin Smith was sitting in the young lady's vehicle talking to her. His friend was sitting in Jaylin's car, which was parked right next to the female's car, listening to the radio. At this time, 2 males dressed in dark clothing, hoodies, and bandanas walked from around the corner of 143rd Street, walked up to the back of the female's vehicle and started firing. They fired approximately 15 rounds. They fired at the female's car, and they fired at Jaylin's car also. Jaylin was struck approximately 9 times and died from his injuries. The female was struck through both thighs, and while they were shooting up Jaylin's car, the victim, who was seated in the passenger seat, narrowly escaped being shot himself. Right after the shooting, the female was so terrified that she didn't know that she had been shot. She jumped out of her vehicle and ran eastbound on Harvard Avenue, where passers-by saw her and stopped her and calmed her down and called EMS, where they came and attended to her wound. The males then walked back around 143rd Street, waited a few seconds, came back and fired some more rounds. They wanted to make sure that Jaylin was dead. On Saturday, March 18, 2006, in the early morning hours at the location of East 143rd and Harvard, while sitting in a motor vehicle, Jaylin Smith was shot 9 times by 2 males, and he died from his injuries. Both suspects were reported as being over 6 feet tall, medium complexion. Each male wore dark clothing, hoodies, and bandanas over their face. Each one brandished a semi-automatic handgun. One was believed to have been a .40 caliber, another was believed to have been a .45 caliber.
It's tore our family apart. You look at his kids and you see Jaylin, and so that makes it hard. Not knowing is really hard. His birthday, the anniversary of the day that it happened, is really hard.
We want to find out what exactly happened to him, who was involved, why did this have to happen like this? And like I said, basically, we just need justice. Everyone in the family, everybody need closure.
That's the hardest part of it, is not knowing. You know, you sit around and you talk about the what ifs and the things that we've heard, and we're just hoping from the time that it's been that, you know, it's time that someone talks now.
At this point, we have nothing further to go on. The gentleman wore a mask at the time, and we need the public's assistance to help us with this case. If you could, please, if you know anything about this case, call the Cleveland Police Homicide Unit, Detective Michael Smith, or Detective Wally Everett.
He has 4 lovely children, ages 3, 7, 8, and 9. And they need to know what happened to their father as well as we do.
My name is Jaylin Smith, and if anybody know anything about my daddy, please call Crime Stoppers.
We need answers. It's been 4 years, and we are hoping that someone will come forth now. We need to know what happened to him. Most importantly, his mother needs to know so that we can have some type of closure.
Jaylin Smith's killers showered that street corner with bullets, showing no regard for human life. These are the kinds of people we cannot allow to continue to walk the streets with us. All police know is that there were 2 black males who had their faces covered, each standing about 6 feet tall. If you know anything about this case, call Crime Stoppers right now. You can remain anonymous and you will be eligible for a cash reward. On September 13, 2011, a group of punks decided to destroy property on Madison Avenue on Cleveland's west side. They were proud of the damage they caused, and we know this because they brought a cameraman and recorded the entire crime on video. What they don't know is that the factory did too. Here's Cleveland Police Sergeant David Rudd.
On September 13th of this year, at 8200 Madison Avenue, the National Food Packaging Company had a break-in entering and also a vandalism occurred on their property. This occurred approximately 7:30 in the evening. The interesting thing about this is that surveillance cameras captured the whole incident, but the suspects in this case were actually filming themselves commit the vandalism. And as you can see in the video, the one individual is holding a camera, filming the whole incident. 2 other individuals are throwing rocks and cinder blocks at the vehicle, causing the damage. Suspects in this case, white males, 18 to 20 years old. They have some tattoos on them, which might help identify them. The suspect throwing the cement block into the windshield of the truck, you'll see a very large tattoo on his left shoulder. The person with the camera has a tattoo on his calf. The vandalism in this case is the actual damage that occurred to the vehicle, and as you can see, it renders the truck useless for National Food Packaging to make their deliveries. Extensive damage to the windshield and the interior of the vehicle. The individuals in this case, as you can see when they're leaving, it's rather casual. They're not worried about being caught. Obviously didn't care about what they did, the damages that occurred. We suspect that the camera or the video has probably been used for the internet. Anyone with information on any of these suspects, or if they've seen this video someplace, give Crime Stoppers a call. You'll remain anonymous and you'll be eligible for that cash reward.
Take a good look at the 3 suspects pictured here. Note the prominent tattoos on these white males. Do you recognize them? Thank you for joining us for Crime Stoppers Case Files, where you are empowered to help clean up our streets. Remember, our towns and our neighborhoods are a direct reflection of what we allow them to be. So let's all do our part to make them safe. And we'll see you next week for another edition of Crime Stoppers Case Files.